Howdys and salutations, y'all! Happy Monday! Hope the week's off to a good start for you, wherever you may be. Although for some of y'all, you're probably getting ready to kick off Tuesday already. Which, I mean, I'll be honest, in my opinion, is the worst day of the week, but I hope that you have a good one. And I suppose it really depends on how you spend the other days on how Tuesdays go. It's just, Monday, at least you've got the recent memories of the weekend. Even if you're not coming off of that refreshed, you're still coming off of, time to be you. Tuesday, the end of the week is so distant, but also the start of the week feels distant because you had to deal with Monday already. But perhaps that's just me. I know everyone handles their week and their week stress differently. People talk about hump day, Wednesday being the worst because it's equidistant. And of course, it depends on what work you do. Even for those of you who do stick to a normal Monday through Friday typical work week, sometimes the type of work you do each day is different. So, maybe your Tuesday stinking rocks because it's the day you get to have, no meetings and focus down. Or it's the day you get to have all the meetings, and you don't have to do your boring focus work, and you can, meet with people. Everyone enjoys different parts of the job, if they enjoy any of it at all. Really funny how that works. You'd think we'd have figured out a better way to be like, oh, you enjoy this stuff, you can enjoy that part of a job. But, we're it's not quite a one-to-one match. Hard to categorize types of work. And I know there's, aims testing and placement tests and a million other things like those. Which, I don't know, maybe they help. They never seem to. Well, anyway, back to what we're actually doing. Where we left off, we had finished up the line work for Salt, and looking at it today, is it perfect? No. But am I sufficiently happy with it to say let's move forward? Yes. May mess with the bangs again later, but character looks the right age. Giant chunky boots look properly chunky. Can't actually see the legs, but the boots are too big. It's part of the character. At least a little bit. In any case, let me crack open ArtFight, because that's what this is all about. ArtFight kicks off in... Uh-oh. Very little time. That's not good. Got what? It's the 19th right now, and ArtFight kicks off on the 1st. 19th of June, that gives us 6, 7, 8, 9... Okay. 12 days, counting today. Given that I want to have theoretically 4 character profiles up there at the start, and at the moment I have one old one that's not even finished, which we're working on. So... we'll see how far we get. I always say I'm gonna try to work on them off stream, and then life is busy, and I always am like, oh right, that's why my stream schedule is what it is. But we'll see. We had a real productive Sunday morning yesterday. Loving those Sunday morning streams. The rare chance I can do them. They may leave me tired, but they're fun streams. Oh yeah, no, that's not what I wanted to do. I wanted to save this one, because I compulsively save everything, as always. And, yeah, let's kick off. We've got the old character reference right next to the new one. And look, I'm not saying the old ones were bad. We learned a lot, and we, even between the one on the left and the one on the right, I feel like certain, stylization choices improved. But, I'd like to think that our new one is a little better. But it ain't done yet. And I still love lineless styles. I want to get better at them. But for now, let's actually practice lines for once, because those are still important. Even to lineless, you got to understand how the heck the lines work. So, let's see. There's probably one little line tweak I might make. Whoops. Not what I meant to do at all. The one little line tweak I'm going to do, and then we'll be back off to the races with colors. Well, not specifically colors. Values. And I love once I finally figured out how the heck hue saturation value worked, they're really nice. Because, to go back a little bit, I know when I'm learning things, sometimes they feel overwhelming because there's so many different things you have to track at once, and art is especially that way. It's, to go science-y terms, it's hard to isolate the variables. You're trying to be okay, I want to practice this one skill. Say, I want to practice proportions, but you basically can't do that without perspective or without an understanding of how to do isometric views to negate perspective, and in either case, that's a second skill you need. Plus, you need to be able to actually draw whatever you're drawing in perspective, even if you have an excellent reference. You still need to understand why. Colors and values and shades and textures and lighting, like there's so many things when you're trying to do an art piece that even when you're just trying to practice one skill, it can be hard to isolate them. And one of the ones that has been very elusive for me was making a good color palette. I feel like I can identify a good one when I look at it, and I've had a lot of good luck with the low spec stuff. I know we used that for Sword Timber or Tober, whichever month it is last year. It's Timber because it's Witch-tober, I think. But, okay, what size are we on? Cool, that's a reasonable size. That's less reasonable. There we go. But, let's see. You want something like that or more like that? More like that. But trying to actually come up with one, or even when I was cracking them open and looking at the colors, trying to figure out how they ticked, I couldn't make heads or tails of it. And it's because there's really multiple things to what we think of as color. And RGB is one way to think about it. You're just talking about how much red, green, and blue you mix together. Or red, yellow, blue if you're doing pigments, or, you know, there's a bunch of different models for that. But that doesn't really, that's not necessarily the stuff that's relevant for planning out an art piece. Sometimes it is, but it's frequently not. In practice, what HSV does, which is really nice, is it lets you actually separate out those things so that you can focus on just sorting out one of them at a time. And that has been very nice. Let's see. There we go. That kind of flare makes it look... Yeah, okay, cool. I like that. And we're starting to get that sort of a little bit more of that with how we do this. So yeah. I like that. Yeah, I'd like a small one here. So kind of like a weird pinching to it that I don't want. Anyway, the things that HSV does is rather than just being like, okay, here's 3 different colors, mix them together, good luck figuring out whether that'll make it darker or lighter, or even defining darker or lighter. Hue, saturation, value lets you separate probably the thing you think of with color, which is hue, which is it red, is it green, is it blue, yellow, so on, teal, turquoise, chartreuse, magenta, whatever the heck you want. So that's sort of hue. Value is the lighter dark, basically. Now, that's not necessarily one-to-one, but basically, it's if you were only in grayscale, would this look more black or more white, or where would it land on all the grays in between? And honestly, I feel like the more I mess with it, the more I realize that value is the thing that that's important for composition and stuff, and for drawing the eye so much more. Like, don't get me wrong, if you have really, really bold color differences, it'll draw the eye more, but it'll also, you tend to have to really lean into it and go for very bright, bold colors to actually catch the eye, and it's rough. Whereas when you're doing it with values, you can be a little more nuanced with it and still guide the viewer the directions you want them to go. At least a little bit. Let's see, let's get back into the flats in here. Oh no, we already got the flats. We're getting our base values now. And saturation is sort of the connection between hue and value. So if you think of like printing out just like a gradient that's like all the way, or just this grid of squares even, where you've got the black here and then it goes all the way up to this, technically that's not quite black and that's not quite white, but they're close. It goes across that spectrum. That's going to be your value. Oh, okay, interesting. I want to differentiate from the scarf, which could probably stand to be. And those are real close together. Interesting. Because I really want to keep this brightest one as a highlight. So I guess secondary down. Anyway, the point is, you've got that. You've, say, printed that out. And you just, I don't know, tape it to a wall or put it on the floor, whatever you want to do. You put it somewhere. So you've got your values. But instead of just being like, and now you're like, okay, we've got this. How do we make it actually color? And saturation is basically that piece. You're like, okay, I want to make this more green. And the only tool you have to do that is, let's go with layers of green saran wrap, or like plastic wrap, that like mostly transparent, but not quite. It's a little translucent. It's got a little bit of color to it. You put one layer of that over top of your black to white spectrum. They're not going to look that different, but they'll look a little different. You'll have like, let's see, to use our greens as an example, and this little box, instead of being all the way on the gray, you'll have like a little bit of green to it. Like that's still pretty bland, pretty grayish, at least on its own. But you know, it's got a little bit there. And then you add another layer of saran wrap. You bring it in more. You add more green. You add another layer, another, and so on, until you get these really bold greens where you almost can't even like tell what the original value was, because it's just so much green. And that's basically your saturation, is how many layers of color, I hate to say layers of the hue, because it doesn't have to be like flat layers, it can be a smooth gradient, but basically layers of the hue. How many coats of paint you put over it to like temper it, how many filters, how harsh of a filter you put over your black to white to actually bring the color out on it, or the hue out on it. And you end up noticing that like the whites shift real quick, whereas the super dark one doesn't. And that's why you sometimes get the color square, or you can adjust it to a color triangle that you lose some values, but it basically compresses one of these two edges down to a single point, so that, because these all end up looking like the same anyway. Whereas these, obviously that's changing, and it changes as you go along this axis. But like down here, it's not really changing that much. But I like the square view anyway, because it lets me think of them as separate axes a little more clearly, just for me personally. But the benefit of breaking out that value, the darkness to lightness, before you're dealing with the hue, is when you're doing your art, it basically, instead of trying to multitask on two things, you can just focus on one at a time. No. Let's not do that. And so I can work on getting my values in here, and I don't have to worry if the colors are lined up nicely, or if they like coordinate quite yet. Like, don't have to think about that at all. Not a bit. You know what? I'm going to wait on doing this other one until I'm fully like sorted out on what I want my values to be over here. Actually, hold on. Let's even go darker on the hair. I think one more ought to do. Yeah. Then we can bring our hat more into this range. Still dark, but like not crazy dark. Make the hat match the boots. Oh well. And you'll note I'm not worrying about shadow yet. I'm just worrying about what are, like, assuming that it's a flat light source that can get everywhere, here's what it would look like. Okay. I don't necessarily want to draw too much attention down here, so I'm going to go with low contrast on these values, just like one gray off. It's still noticeable, but it's not crazy. Whereas up here where you want to draw attention, I'm like, okay, high contrast between the face and the hair. Even the hair and the hat have a pretty big difference. We'll probably get some stuff with the glasses in there too that makes it pop even more. But right now they're transparent. And we've got the scarf to really contrast too, and the gem in the scarf. Whereas these, I mean, they can be that, and then like I don't need a crazy amount of difference in like the belt and stuff. I don't know why I was coloring in like that. I'll have to clean up some edges there, but that's fine. There we go. If we want to draw some attention down here, we can make a high contrast belt buckle, but I actually kind of don't want to do that. So we'll just make it a little darker, or, well, I'd say lighter, but then it's going to blend in with this too much, or end up contrasting with the belt too much. And I kind of like the dark metal belt buckle look anyway. We can make the bag a hair darker too, differentiate it from the belt. Whoops. Tie it in more with the shoes and accessories as opposed to the just clothing piece. And like, yeah, we can sort of think through this sense of where the high contrast should be, where the focus should be, a lot more easily without worrying about, well, that's kind of a muddy brown, let's try tweaking it a little bit. which is, for the record, exactly what we did with this one. And it's why you can see I was still tweaking with skin tones, I was still tweaking with the browns, and like adjusting it, and then adding a shadow and being like, it looks kind of mustard yellow now, but I've committed to this sort of set, and like, so if we do the values first, we can work out light and shadow right out the gate, and then later on, we can come back and think about what the actual hues should be. And this gives us a lot of flexibility, because especially if you want to like test out different color schemes for your character, if you're not quite sure where you want to land with that, or if you want to make variant colors of one character, it basically lets you say, okay, I know the composition's going to work no matter what I do. Yeah, okay, cool. And like, so that part is sorted out. It's all set. You know what's going to happen. And then you can just mess with colors and be like, okay, you know, we had a team that was like really like had a lot of bright like light colors. We can play into that, or we can test out a dark one to contrast with different things. But it lets you play with it without having to refigure out all of these compositional questions again, which is just really nice. And I find it's easier to figure out if things actually have high contrast when you're not also parsing the colors or the hues. It's still pretty ingrained in me, the old terms. But, you know, not like those terms are even wrong. Just, you know, it's not clear when you refer to multiple things as color, especially when one of those things contains one of the other things. Okay. And I am actually going to go ahead and, like, seriously not worry about shadows. If that fabric's the same fabric, it's going to be the same color. We will do shades and highlights after this, but we're going to do it a little bit different, so. Guess we're coloring that in. Fine, that works. Hold on. I do want to tweak that a little bit on the line work, too, real quick, while we're at it. Unfortunately, the edge of this gem kinda lines up weird. So let's go ahead, and it doesn't contrast super great with this, like, border here either. So, I assume that's too dark, yeah. Let's see, is this the same? Okay, yep, it is. Cool, now I guess that's gonna be our reds. Okay, grab this. I'm just doing a little bit of edge cleanup here. I don't need to spend too much time on this, and in fact, I probably shouldn't, but I'm going to do a little bit while we're here. And honestly, if I'm going to do it, this is the time, although not on the stinking lines layer. Ah, glad I caught that. Let's do this on the base values layer, shall we? Ay. You know, I was saying it's not really the time for this, but there's not going to be another time, like not a super obvious one, to do this. So, like, I may as well. A little bit of edge cleanup, make sure we get this patch. Again, I don't want it to be crazy dark. We're aiming for hat tier, not edge tier. I don't mean that in like edgelord way, although those are really close to each other still. And not so much when they're right on each other. Something to think about. I don't think the fill tool is going to play nice with this open edge patch. I mean, it might. It has impressed me before, but I'm just gonna have a go at filling it in like this. I like the soft edge on that one. Probably should have done that for the other corner too. Not too late, I suppose. Can get a slightly larger one and just roll that in a bit. Yeah. Cool. Got ourselves a patch. The hat also has a patch. And since that patch matches the hat color, I'm going to make this patch match the normal outfit color. Yeah, I didn't think that was the same brush. Oh, very different. Let's do that. Okay. Gives us low contrast around most of the outfit, high contrast where we want it. Still draws probably too much attention to the boots, but that's fine. And I'm happy to leave that basically the way it is. So let's take that same palette and work it out on the other side. And then we'll start dealing with shadows, which will be fun, and highlights. We won't neglect the highlights. And I'm doing this on the same base values layer. I don't know if that's a good idea or not, but it's what I'm doing. So we've got the hat. I know the bag was sort of matching that in style. May do some tweaks once we get right up close with the bag, but for now we'll leave that. And then these, the more fabric parts of the boots, are all like that as well. Anything else on this view? Not really the gemstone. The belt's not super visible. In any case, it's like a little lighter. I think I grabbed the right one, but may as well play it safe. Just pull it directly. Oh, is it literally like the base value? Okay, then let's take this one and start filling in, because there's a lot that's this color. I might just be the tunic, honestly. A little bit that there. Grab the skin tone for wherever it's showing up. Just checking my layers again, still base values. Good, 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 good. Don't want to mix that up. That hand ain't perfect, but it is good enough for our purposes. I am trying to stay a little more cognizant or aware of the fact that there is a time limit on this, and part of that time limit is not finite time, but it's, do you want to burn yourself out on drawing this character, which I don't want to do. So, fun area of high contrast. Let's get this going in here. I like those. And more high contrast, because I do want to draw attention to this, because it's, you know, an actually interesting part of the outfit. At least in theory. I'd probably go lower contrast on this part. I may think about that. That would actually probably help in a couple of things if I did. Like I make it match the belt instead. Let's try that. Right over here in our sort of main experimenting zone first. Does make the tunic pop less, but we can use the hue to adjust that a little bit. And I don't know, I feel like it works better with the boots than anything. It helps make this look more like part of the tunic, which is good. What we want, because it is that. Oh yeah, and then that's... I can't tell if that's like edge of boot or if that is leg and side. It's probably a bit of both and I'm missing a line, but we'll leave it for now. I've got some shoe inconsistency on this shoe, but that's honestly, I kind of prefer it to the other one, so I'm going to leave it alone for now. Now let's see. Am I missing anything obvious? And feel free, you know, obviously no pressure. You aren't being graded, but feel free to give a shout if you see something that I'm missing as we jump between these two sides. Let's see, let's make sure we've got the right tunic color and the right belt colors going on in here. Good, yeah, belt's a little darker, as it ought to be. Tunic here. We get this crevice. I already got that, good. And then the bag is what it is. Let's make sure that all of the bag is that. Is that supposed to be part of the... That's kind of a straight line. I don't know what's happening there, actually. I assume it's supposed to be the strap. But the strap should really attach to the actual edge, which I guess was probably there at some point. Let's actually tweak that one a tiny bit. That's something we can fix. The angle of that's also going to be a little off, if I'm being honest. I'll try to just clear out... of course. Well, we can at least clear out some of the stuff that's sitting in here. Okay. There, now that will look like it's arcing in the right way. Let's go back, even to our flats layer actually, and clean some of this up a little bit. Yes, that way we'll clean it up on that base layer, then nothing else will land on it later, so that'll be good. I think that was the same color as the rest of the flats. Almost. One off. Let's put this back. And let's correct some of the colors that are now all sorts of places they shouldn't be because the border's moved. No, not on the flats layer. No! Okay, yeah. Base values. Okay, there we go. That's better. Grab the tunic color and fill in here. Okay. This'll be fun. Recognizable front and back. You know, hat ain't perfect, but it will do. I keep redesigning the hat. I like the long, like, the crazy long point here. But like I'm still trying to get I'm not super happy with the crook of the hat, and maybe it's because it's, you know, should probably be bending with gravity a little more than it is. We could experiment with that a tiny bit. Again, I don't want to mess with lines too much, and I know that usually when I say a tiny bit, it ends up being, you know, a lot more than a tiny bit. Yeah, I'm going to leave it for now and just imply that it's a lot more stiff than it looks. The patch can probably contribute to that. And we won't worry about that too much. Oh, got it. Okay. Glad I took the time to look in that area, though, because that's the other end of the bag strap. That should actually be... Boop. There we go. That should be tunic colored. Okay. Whew, that went quickly. Always nice. The other thing about this stage is when you separate it, like, when you separate it out from the hues, I feel like doing them separately is still faster than doing them together. And maybe when people have an eye for it and they really understand how they all play well together, that's not the case, but especially early on, separating these out has done wonders. Okay, so now we can mess with our base hues. And this is where things get interesting. Because first off, I want this to be a hue layer. That way, if I were to say grab a color wheel, we're on red, I'm going to grab it here and fill. Whoops. I still haven't figured out how these layers work sometimes. Yeah, okay, that's not doing squat. Unclip it. This layer just like not picking up anything? Like even when it's not clipped to stuff, it's not visible. Is it behind something it shouldn't be behind? No? Okay, I'm kind of confused. Oh, I see it now. Is it referring to the wrong layer? Well, okay, it is there. Hold on. Let me just clip it to the layer below it. Alright, well, first off, let's just clean off this whole mess. Make sure there's nothing on that layer. Like coloring it in with transparency. Cool. Not sure that's the best way to do that. I guess it's not a vector layer, so that's probably fine. Ay. If I make this a normal layer, does it even show up? Should, right? Yeah. Ominous. Yeah, so you can see that just like coats the whole thing. We make it darken, then I'm trying to remember how all these different ones work. We may just dig through them until we find the one we want. Okay, yeah, multiply, color burn. Whoops. Layer burn, subtract. Takes the red out of it, gives us a very interesting ominous setup, which I like. Lighten is the opposite of darken. Screen, I think, is actually the opposite of multiply. Color dodge is interesting. That might be what we're looking for, actually. I need to double check that. Let's keep color dodge in mind. Glow dodge is that, but more. Add with glow. Overlay might also actually be what we're looking for. To an extent. Soft light, hard light. Difference, ooh, that one's fun. Basically, I think it amplifies the things that are darker than the current color you're drawing with, or that is to say, they have a darker value, and then it like inverts the things that have a lighter value. Near light, in light, hard mix. Oh, that one's all or nothing, ain't it? Illusion, darker color, lighter color. Hue? Oh, that was divide, actually, wasn't it? Yeah, okay, that makes more sense. Lighter color, darker color. Yeah, so it only colors the things that are darker, and then okay, yeah. Hue, I need to figure out why hue ain't doing squat. Saturation, color, and brightness. Is it because it's clipped to the flats? Well, if I make this its own layer. Well, oh, jeepers. Oh yeah, and that just thinking colors the whole mess. But now let's test this layer. Hue, nope, okay. Yeah, I don't know what hue does, but it's not what I thought it would. I'm gonna throw it on color dodge for now. I don't think that's the right one now that we've seen some of the others. But I'm gonna go check a guide real quick. Been a little while since we've done that live. I wrote one a while back and I totally forgot how it worked. Let's see. ESP layer blending modes. And that's not limited to CSP, for the record. Clip Studio Paint, the tool I use. Like, these are very common modes across tools. You'll find these or their equivalents in Photoshop, Krita, even Blender, even the 3D Blender. Like, yeah, so... Okay, here we go. This is the guide that I'd found before. Let's take a look-see at this. Thank you, Art Rocket. Okay. Heart is the layer above, that city's below. Normal, it just covers the whole darn thing. Interesting that they gave the heart a bit of a glow. I guess that's going to be relevant. Pairs the colors of the blending and keeps the darker of whatever. Okay. That makes sense. Multiplies them. Yeah, multiply is one people use for shadows a lot. Makes sense, truthfully. Color burn is okay, increases contrast to base colors and then blends them. Alright, let's go down to the ones that we were actually paying interest to. Hold on, lighten versus screen is always a fair question. Okay, so this is like darken, where it compares the base layers and then it compares both of the layers and then picks whichever is lighter, whereas darken picks whichever is darker. Okay, screen inverts the base colors and then multiplies. Okay, so multiply. Okay. So it will multiply them towards lighter as opposed to darker. Got it. Color dodge lightens tones of base colors and reduces oh yeah, that's not what we want. Glow dodge is color dodge extra. Add will eventually turn everything into a white nightmare. Just like subtract will do the same for a black one. Let's see, glow. Papers hyper add. Okay. Oh yeah, overlay's interesting. So it lightens the light and darkens the dark. Cool. Oh, it literally goes on to say that. Cool. Let's see. Soft light. It's interesting. Hard light. Okay, difference. Yep, okay. Let's see. Oh, really? They didn't cover any of the other funky ones? Man. Wait, hold on. That pepper and carrot going on over here? Probably. Well, no, probably not actually, because they're pretty Krita-based. Well, this isn't specific to CSP though. Okay. Pepper and Carrot's a comic that I probably ought to throw in the ArtFight. Really, nothing more than the name was inspired from that to Salt, but because Salt and Pepper, and I needed a D&D NPC on short notice, which eventually grew into Salt. But it was technically where the whole thing started with Salt. And that's a fun comic too, for the most part. I enjoy it. Okay. What this does mean, though, that I need to check another guide. Oh, right. I even had to do this last time. Okay, the CSP docs. This will get us... Okay. Okay, they call it brightness instead of value, but conceptually they're the same. Yeah, it says the hue and saturation of this... Oh, wait, no, that's color. So hue should set... Oh! Oh! Wait, hold on. The hue of the set layer is applied while maintaining the brightness of the set... Okay. Brightness and saturation of the layer below. So, like, even if I don't clip it, if I set this to hue, as opposed to color dodge, because normal it's a blob, and it just covers everything. Set it to hue? No! You're not made... Okay, let's see. The hue and saturation of the set layer are applied while maintaining the brightness of the... Oh, okay, maybe I want color. Okay. Got it. So this layer is just coloring whatever's below it. Cool, cool. That'll be helpful later, I think. I mean, we'll see. I always like mess with these, and then I end up just like manually doing stuff because I like the fine-tune control on it. It's silly, but... Okay, let's see. But we don't need a base hues layer that is chaos. So let's try something a little more reasonable. The main reason I would consider doing this is because I don't want... So if this works the way I think, then... Let me think. This whole row should get similar results. Okay, wait. Layer is set to color. Oh, am I... Oh, come on, it was just working. Oh, I'm still in the eraser. Duh. Dumb. Okay, so, and then if I get one that's roughly in the same layer, results... Oh. That's totally still messing with the value. And that absolutely still has an impact. Well, that's annoying. But what I was hoping is that it would just... Well, I guess I can just use this if I want that, but... Max it out here, then grab whatever. And it'll rebalance. Okay, yeah, so I'm just gonna ignore the other two variables. Keep this stuff on. Oh, jeepers, that's so harsh. You know. And I was hoping that it would just use the saturation and, I guess, brightness of the layer below. Let me double check my blending mode guide again real quick. Ah, okay, so I really do want hue. I just want it to actually work. Please. I want the brightness and saturation of the bottom layer, but the hue of the top layer. What am I doing wrong? Do I need to, like, have this not be clipped? No, because... Is it only applying it to... Seems like it's only applying it to the background. And I want this hue layer to be applying to the thing right below it. Okay. This is an interesting predicament. I guess there's always the correction layers. That's something we could mess with. We did that a bit with the gradient maps in Millennia back in the day. Let's see. Let's try it. Let's put this layer away entirely for now. And let's try this. Edit menu. Okay, hold on. Creates a new tonal correction layer above the selected layer. Yeah, okay, because I don't want to directly apply it. Is that what this is? No, that's a layer mask. That's the thing I still haven't figured out yet. I have yet to figure out the difference between blending or having just a layer that's clipped to another one and blending to it, a correction layer, and a layer mask. That is something that I ought to look into at some point. I'm going to make a note to do that later. We'll deal with that. Okay. Okay, layer. New layer. Tone, I suppose. Or no, correction layer? New correction layer. This one. Oh, this just sets a flat hue to everything. Oh. Okay, that's just well, that answers some things. Ah. I've hit a bit of a stumbling block. I thought that the hue layer was going to work. And based on the docs, it feels like it should. I'm trying to figure out where I'm going wrong with that. Interesting. Let me read it again. I'll read it with y'all. That way we've got this together. The hue of the set layer. Hold on, let's just make sure we're clear. Layer below, the layer to be set. Okay. The layer you're applying it to is the top layer, that's the set layer. And the layer below it is the layer below. Makes sense? So if we look back at hue, the set layer, which is the layer that we're putting colors onto, putting hues onto, it applies that hue, but it maintains the brightness and saturation of the layer below. Perhaps there's still fundamental HSV things that I'm still missing a little bit, but it seems like that should, you know, just apply the hue. Yeah, because see, all three of these, if you look at the example, these are supposed to be different, like, I guess a shade and a lighter tone of the same color here. And in the hue layer, they turn out the same. In the color layer, they don't. And the color layer is what we were using that was getting that result. So hue layer, I'm gonna have to dig into that a little bit. Okay, DSP hue layer no effect. Let's try checking that. See if someone can help. Digging through docs. Sorry, give me just a second here. And these look like old screenshots. Ah, no solution. Okay. I still need to get this to figure out how to get this piece to work, because it's, you know, if hue worked the way I expected it to, and I've yet to figure out why it doesn't. If anything, hold on. If we unclip this, does it? No, hue still just applies to the bottommost layer. Why is it doing this? Because look, if I hide these, and I throw some nonsense in the hue layer, grab a darker one. Yeah, okay, that's working exactly as intended, but only on the bottom layer. Okay, hold on. CSP hue only applies to paper. Oh boy. I don't know that this is a common issue. Or at least there's too many other similar issues that Google's not turning up what I want. No, ugh. Anyone even use hue layers? Maybe I'm just using like defunct tech. I've got this as the lighthouse. It's supposed to be the main thing. The hue layer don't care. Color, color applies as I would expect, looking gross. Saturation, well, that makes some sense. Brightness. Now hold on. Okay, yeah, I guess it's just overriding. Yeah, brightness would overwrite the brightness layer below. Well, that's some fun pop art, if I did it right. Stuff. Lighter color. Just picks whatever's lighter. Funny what that ended up highlighting with the hair. Because that blue is darker than most everything in terms of value. Okay. So what I'm discovering is I'm pretty sure hue is the right layer. It's just not working right? Because it won't apply to anything except for the background. It's not going to let me draw in the background. Hold on. Is it that it won't apply to stuff that's darker? But surely it would still apply to the cloak. Whereas that's only applying to stuff that literally isn't... Why is this layer showing... Oh, why is it only applying to stuff that's behind? Is there anything in these folders that would be messing with that? I don't think so. No. This is why the flats are important. They help us fill some gaps like that. Not the reason, but, you know, they're there. I think I probably need to try to at least slightly clean this up. There we go, that's better. Didn't realize how many gaps there were in that. That's fine. We can go ahead and clip this to it again. Keep those together. Well, I'm right disappointed about this hue layer thing because I was sort of counting on that. That way we could not at all tamper with the saturation that we've well, yeah, with this. No, it wouldn't be the saturation, but with the values that we've applied, that we've built out. Okay, I'm gonna look at CSP hue broken. That's just the thinking. This thing, the color, this box, the hue and saturation box. Okay, hold on. New clipping layer broken. Let's see. Nope. Feels like this should be just some dumb user error thing. I don't know, but I don't know what I could have done that would cause this. Well, I guess we're just going to have to do some manual matching here, which is a pain, but that's fine. It does sort of undercut the whole point of the base values layer, though. I'm just going to delete this layer. Just fresh start it, why not? Okay, hues. Probably ought to do... Hold on, should I do the values before I'm messing with this anyway? Flat, shadows, highlights, and then hues. Okay. Yeah, tell y'all what. We're going to come back. We're going to do the shadows and the highlights and their layers. And then I'm going to, at least over the break and certainly post-stream, going to do a little more research on this stinking hue layer problem. Because I don't know what's going on with that. So I will be back in just a few. I hope y'all get some water, use the restroom, whatever you need to do. And then we'll jump right back into it. See y'all in just a couple moments. Howdys and salutations, y'all. Ready to get back into it? Let's see. I've at least found the terms in order to search for the blending mode issue. However, I unfortunately was not able to find any good guides on it. I'm going to crack open the Ask forums and see if we can't get anything sorted out, but that's a challenge for after this stream. Whether it's user error or if there's an actual bug with just the stinking hue blending mode, which I don't know what it would mean if I'm the only person who's found that. Either I'm using some archaic techniques and I probably need to move on to stuff that's more current and probably more user-friendly, or just nobody stinking uses the hue layer, which I find hard to believe. So rather than worrying too much about that, let's just jump right into lights and shadows. Now, this is a different sort of challenge, and I hesitate to say it, a kind of a composition challenge a little bit. Although after the Mikola streams, I understand if that's a stinking ominous message for me to even say the word composition at this point. I promise we'll do better, and this won't be that bad. The only thing that really matters that we need to think about is where is the light source? Because depending on where you put the light source, you can make a very cheery thing look creepy and a very creepy thing look positively, well, at the very least, not existentially threatening so much as just kind of gross. So, thinking out where you put the light source is important. The challenge in my experience is I like characters with big fluffy clothes and big hats, which means that it throws shadows over everything and kind of complicates it. So, I'm just going to double check a reference real quick. I've talked about it on streams before. Big fan of Framed Ink. It's a book by, oh, I'm going to say this wrong, Marcos Meto Mester. I believe he was a, let's see, which studio? DreamWorks. Did a lot of DreamWorks concept art and stuff. Very cool. Very good book on, like, lighting composition. And a lot of stuff that's actually very simple to apply and a lot of stuff that's complex. But the simple to apply stuff has an immediate benefit, so, you know. But I'm trying to think, what angle of light do we really want for Salt here? And I don't want it to look like these two characters are standing next to each other. I probably ought to have the one... Do I want one light angle for both? Or do I want... like, it's on this side for this one, and then that would translate to that side for that one? Or do I want to do something a little different so that it's a better view for each? I don't actually know what the standard is for character sheets. Let's see. Faces. Doobity-doo, opening my book, because I like me some books. I generally want Salt to be excited and outgoing, so I want... as far as tone, I want a well-lit face, but not just, like, completely washed out, or else it ends up looking boring. And flat, which, I mean, look, don't get me wrong, this art style is already not, like, the most depthy. There's definitely ways to do more. But we'll start with this. In the meantime, I'm going to crack open my other reference book. That's... oh, I forget what it's even called. Here, I shouldn't... oh, it's one of those Andrew Loomis ones. He's done a bunch of stuff. Really good for proportion guides and all that, but also had a little section on lighting that I'm trying to find real quick. Ah, here we go, because it was specific to the face. Okay, 3/4 top side, pretty good, but the hat is going to mess with that. Top will not work well. I mean, flat light is what it is, but it's not fun. Unfortunately, most of the best lighting examples are like, yes, from above, and I'm just thinking, no, oh no. Okay. Guess there's always 3/4 side. It's kind of the standard one, but it's not a bad choice. Sometimes things are standard for a reason. I mean, that's true of cliches too. They get used so much because most of the time they work. They only don't work when they become utterly predictable and boring. So you've got to keep spicing them up, basically. But I feel like that's, you know, an overdone example is the new Star Wars trilogy. Movie 7 I thought was actually quite fun. Sure, it was like very similar plot to the original and had plenty of Star Wars cliches, but the new characters were interesting. They had set up for, within the same structure, interesting new things to happen. So I don't think it would have been boring. Episode 8, they took more of the approach of cliches are bad, let's break all of them. Having the heroes win, having quests that contribute to the end goal, things like that. They were like, no, let's mix this up a bit. But then they fill into, a very arbitrary cliche of commander won't communicate properly, everyone starts a coup, which was stupid. I get that they'd seen him as erratic, but they didn't, like, the whole rebellion was fairly erratic at that point, so it didn't really set him up as, like, oh, he can't be trusted with information. And they didn't have reason to suspect, like, that he was going to go, like, suicide mission or anything. So I don't know. They didn't set it up well enough that it made sense to not share info with him. And then they just seemed arbitrary and dumb. Like, I think they could have justified it. Anyway, I'm getting off topic. The point was that one was super anti-cliche, and for a lot of people the movie didn't work very well because the cliches kind of helped story structure to function, and also because they'd already set up a bunch of them in the previous movie that they then didn't have satisfying payoffs for. And then the third movie was a disaster because it was trying to merge the previous two, while the second movie was trying to kill everything the first one set up. So the third one had like nothing to work with, and also a bunch of loose ends. You got to coordinate your storytelling better than this, guys. Look, I'm not saying I would be a great screenwriter. I would not be. Writing fiction is not my strong suit. You want a historical essay, mate? Let's chat. But fiction, not so much. Wait, doesn't CSP have a new, like, light source tool? Hold on. This might be a good chance to experiment with something. But the point was, the seventh movie took cliches and did things to freshen them without breaking them, and it was generally better regarded than the eighth movie, which tried to just break things. It only applies it to... Okay. This has to be a 3D material? That makes sense, honestly. Lighting made easy with CSP. I think this is just more of a special effects person, though. Yeah. Okay, I think you need to be building off of an underlying 3D model for this to work. They were promoting it as a new thing. Okay, hold on. I'll check it. Yeah, the shading assist. Hold on. But I was wondering how it was going to do any of this without 3D, so I don't... Let's throw it in here and see what happens, but I don't think it's going to work. Okay, edit. Let's see if it'll even have the option. I don't know if I'm on the right version for this yet. Edit. Yeah, okay, so it would be somewhere in here. So I don't think I've even got it on here yet. That's fine. I don't think it's going to work for what we want. And honestly, manual shading has a certain amount of fun to it. I'm not going to lie. Especially now that we can mess with this G pen, like the real G pen, and actually use it in a meaningful way a little more. Hold on. We're on this layer. Oh, it's because I'm drawing with nothing. That's fine. Let's go back to our color set. Really? There we go. Getting all the tools, getting back in the groove. Okay. We're going to try not to spend too much time in documentation on streams if I can help it. Granted, if you've seen my Blender streams, you know sometimes I can't help it. I like my docs. Okay, hold on. We should probably clip this to the layer below it too. That way, at the very least, you know, if I was smart, I wouldn't... Okay, hold on. Did I somehow erase a line here? Okay. Oh, I moved it. Got it. Okay. I should stop making frantic motions over my own art pieces. Anyway. And that one wasn't a thing to undo. That's just an actual, like, spot of dirt on my screen. Time to clean the monitor. Anyway, thinking about light sources. Let's establish one here. Now, this doesn't clarify where it is in 3D space, but at least it gives us something to work with face-wise. I'm going to imply that it is... jeepers. In front of the arm, basically level with the nose, we'll say. Let's go slightly further away from us than the nose, is what I'm going to go with. We're going to work on shading the face first. Trying to think through the planes of the face a little bit. If I see anything where I need to do touch-ups, then I'm going to do those with a slightly smaller brush than that. Holy cow. We can still go up to at least like a 20 probably. So remembering that this is this, so if we want highlights, we can do fairly minimally lighter. Probably go a little bigger on the brush too while we're sorting this out. I never even colored in the mouth. Interesting. Also, I've realized this is I separated out shading and highlights in my notes, and that is probably a thing I should do. We'll see. We'll see if we even need the highlights. We're probably going to want to do some, but keeping them a little more subtle. And we'll say the light source is slightly up, so we'll still have like a little bit of brow ridgy stuff happening here, but probably not a ton. And maybe not enough to even warrant including in this model, or illustration rather. But I do want to get... Oh, this is on the base values layer again? Dagnabbit. I do want to keep that separate. Shadows. Here we go. We can at least like get one going in there a little bit. We'll imply one under the glasses, but we won't mess with it too much. We're still trying to keep this a somewhat cartoony style. And let's fix one area where the fill tool didn't quite nail it. Rats. Okay, there we go. Ah, rats. We're going to stay within the lines. What am I, like a second grader? Oh well. Back to our shadows. And some stuff. Trying to keep the angles consistent relative to the light source. This would have a bigger one. And like, whoa, okay, let's not move the whole layer, shall we? And that's also going to run into just general jawline shadows. And general back of neck. Ears are a funny mess. I want to give them like a little texture, but also they're stinking complicated, and I don't really want to draw a ton of attention to it, because it's not really lining up with the hair in a way that makes a ton of sense. So I kind of want to just leave it alone. Yeah, we can sort of start with that. We'll see if we want to include this. Not sure we will. Thought I'd ended up on a slightly darker one somehow. Because that means I'm probably going to need to rework all of this to be the same, slightly darker. I could probably just use a clipping layer thing to do this a little faster, but we may as well just do it by hand at this point. This is a small enough amount, it's easy enough to just sort of do. this down. Okay. I don't think I'm going to do the cheek one. Whoa, okay, hold on. Oh, it's because the eraser is sneaking massive. That's right. There we go. The hair is a tiny bit darker. I'm actually kind of okay leaving that. Not that weird hair speck, though. Okay. Ah, I guess it's probably also true. Make sure we're on the right one. Yep. We gotta have like a little bit of something going on there, too. And obviously we're gonna have to, I need to just like actually fix on the base values the mouth. Slightly lighter for the tongue. A little bit of edge cleanup. Ew. Okay. Got our face shadows again, but not on the base layer. Okay. And just leave like a little bit in there to round that off. And imply a little bit of shadow cast by the hair that's in front of that, too. Okay, don't want to go too crazy. We're trying to keep this a not overkill detail style after all. Might chill out a little bit with the size of that one, honestly. The glasses are probably going to have to add their own shadow at some point, too. How'd that get back there? Okay. Another shadow that's going to be a little harder is the hair, because it's already pretty darn dark. But we've left ourselves some range on that, so good. Light source is over there. Then backside of hair strands are by and large going to get shady. A little bit less as we get over here. And more of the underside of that one. Really not all that much on that one over there either. A little more shadow as we're getting to this side. Ear's gonna, of course, cast some too. And we'll see, like this part may catch just a tiny bit of light, but back here it's probably not gonna catch a ton. We may add some highlights, make it pop a little more. Probably not gonna go crazy on it. See. And this is one of those other things we're having prepared, like we already know, and we're just dealing with our values. We're not dealing with hues. Makes this a lot nicer. Whoops, guess that's on the lines layer. Yep, okay. Is we can deal with the shading, but we're not actually having to deal with like, oh, is this the right color of brown? Like, because we're gonna just go apply the same brown color hue, hopefully, over top of all of the stuff, and so then it'll just have the right value depending on what's underneath it. Now, if we really want to make it pop, and I will probably mess with this, is we're actually going to be using slightly different hues for shadows, because, well, for a variety of reasons around light bouncing and different things, that's how it often works in real life, and also having a little more color contrast can make things really pop. That's something that we'll probably be doing. We've got this. This is not going to cast a lot of shadow, but it's going to cast a tiny bit of shadow. That is not the right tool. There we go. Hold on, we're going to want grab this one, and then we want actually one darker for shadow. Although actually, when you think about it, the thing that's casting the shadow doesn't matter, it's what the shadow is cast on. There we go, that's why that looks wrong. Just like a little bit, not anything crazy. And we're probably going to be dealing with much larger shadows just from the shape of the hat in general, so if that's bent over a tiny bit, then we're going to be getting some shadows in there. Nice, nice. Okay. And of course, Ed in general is going to be messing with some things. We'll deal with the impact on the hair later. See. A lot of the hat beyond a certain point is probably going to end up in shadow. We'll have to think about anywhere where there would be exceptions or exceptional shadows cast upon it. But I think most of these strands are going to be blocked by the head itself, so they're probably not going to cast a ton of extra shadow. Like, we might have one. And this is where splitting out my layers like an awful lot more would have been smart. But we didn't do that because we're trying to work on a reasonable time frame. And I think it's still net saving us. It's probably a wash, honestly. The other method would be easier, so I should probably do it. Where you split out every single one of these like actual base values into its own layer, and that way you can just shade on it and not worry about the other layers that are happening. Hold on. How do you keep getting there? Do I keep like undoing you back? I definitely don't want to be doing that. But as is, I have to actually be careful along edges, which is not really what I want. I'm gonna have to do a little cleanup anyway, but if you're not careful, you can end up in like edge cleanup loops where you go slightly too far over with one brush and then slightly too far over with the opposite brush while you're trying to clean it up. And so you have to go back and clean that up, and then you go too far over with that one again, and it's very dumb. As someone who has done that on stream before, it's very dumb. Okay. Man, I was so gung-ho about getting to do like the hues and stuff today. I'm a little bit bummed out that we've run into the technical issues we have with that. But that's okay. This means it's something fun to do at tomorrow's stream, hopefully, assuming I can get it working. I mean, even if we can't, that is absolutely something we can do manually. It's just, you know, more tedious. Let's see. And the tedious part is mainly, like, actually coloring it in will be fine. The tedious part is just testing out what our actual, like, color palette should be. Because I'm going to be getting weird interference from the saturations of the colors that I don't actually want or care about. So I want to be using this saturation. Here, let's make these match. You can imply a tiny bit of that other one. Exactly how the shadow would go? Nah, it's not, but good enough. Okay. There we go. Make this a little bit more obvious, even if it's kind of a fake cheat shadow. And a little bit down here. Not actually sure that one's right either, it just feels like it ought to be there. I'm going to trust my gut instinct on that one. Now, the challenge up here is that actually a lot of this part's going to be in shadow. Just based on the shape of that. One clip, buddy. Please, thank you. Yeah, we've immediately lost the shadow we added for this, but that's okay. That one, so we actually do want to do the patch a tiny bit darker. It's funny, I'm not sure it'll work with our color connect in, but maybe the shadows will help imply it. Okay. And let's see, we can even have like a tiny bit more shadow, maybe? like just a tiny little bit back here. Match. Not sure it'll matter all that much, but you know, we can do a little bit. Yeah, it kind of gives the patch volume, but not really in a meaningful way. Well, let's leave it at that for now. Now, it is also worth noting there probably ought to be like an even deeper shadow going on somewhere in here. I'm not going to get into that too much. Because then we'd have to deal with deeper shadows in here too, and I don't know that I really actually want to be messing with that. So let's instead focus on some more interesting things. Like this. This one's already a fairly bright color, although not the brightest in the palette, but darn close. However, at the moment, we actually care about the darker ones. So that light source being where it is, there's not going to be a ton of shadow on the top of this. But there'll be some. A tiny little bit going on in here too. However, back here we'll definitely have shadows going on. All of this section too. I don't think that's going to be catching any of the actual light. This part, however, is more interesting. We were thinking about our light source being roughly here. Maybe more distant, but you know, roughly there. Which means there's going to be definitely shadows cast by this one on the one below it. And this whole one behind it probably ought to be in shadow, but we'll think about that in a second. Because it might catch a little bit of light. This one, unless it's got a curve to it, which it might, we're going to have some shadow up here. But unless this, well, I guess the sleeve could be casting a shadow on it, but I don't really expect it to. Oh, well, maybe. A whole lot. And we can say that it's got like a little bit of a twist to it that keeps it looking a little more dynamic. Okay. Feels like this actually ought to have like bolder shadow from the sleeve. Even a little bit of the sleeve shape on it, maybe. Feels more right. Okay, let's save that. Okay. Of similar interest, while we're just sort of working our way down, we'll get the hand in a second, and then we'll be pretty much set up here, other than, I guess, the glasses, technically. The problem is the glasses need to just be like a very... Well, I guess that could actually still work. We just take the skin tone, and we could treat it like a highlight, basically. As long as we pay attention to the shadows, we take that, we actually make it a little bit lighter. Put these in, and we hope people don't mistake them for eyes. The solution to that is this time we can actually see the edge of the face a little bit. So this is also going to apply to the other stuff in view. And this is where doing stuff in, you know, layers instead of just directly on top of other things would probably be smart. Like transparent, this should probably just be a transparency layer on top of it all. But we're not choosing smart today. That's this one, I believe. Right, we need one layer lighter. And for the part that's actually in shadow, we just need to go back to it. And we'll probably need a little bit in shadow on the other side just to clarify what's happening here. Okay. We're not getting the refraction. Not that the refraction's all that hard to do. I just don't want to accidentally mess up the overall shape of the face, and that's kind of the priority for a reference like this. So I'm going to leave it be. Oh, I guess one thing that probably ought to be on the lines layer. The actual connection there. Similar over there. Trying to get the angle the same. Roughly, anyway. Verifying that that line's actually there, even if it's a little low. Funky glasses, but, you know, they work. Although I suppose glasses themselves do cast a shadow, don't they? Like, ever so faint. Not sure that one would even be visible, really, but there we go. Glasses. Now, I said we were working our way down, so let's actually do that. Let's do the hand, and then we'll deal with... Well, I want to do the gemstone so I don't forget, and then we'll deal with the hand. So that's this one. So we want a little more on shadow. Not like a ton, just a tiny bit. Oh, I forget, there's like thinking scribble in there. Why? Let's just have a fresh go. Guess we could add a little texture to this with like a secondary shadow in there. Probably need to be at this angle. I wanted to imply that it was like concave. There we go. Boom. Instant indent. Okay, now hand shadows are going to be interesting. It's on our skin tone, so we'll go one darker. There you go. That does that match with? Yeah. Okay. Cool. Thumb will be in shadow just because it's under the hat here still. This will be sort of the edges of these fingers, I think. Thinking through our light source. You know, like somewhere that way, but mostly straight on. Yeah, okay, edges of fingers in shadow. Pretty much across the board, in fact. From the angle, these should really be further over. Almost even like possible to see the separation between them. Not quite. going to be messing with liquefy on here just yet. That one's got to be a faint shadow anyway, so that's fine. Yeah. How are we doing on time? Okay, we're plugging along. Can always do better, but we can do worse. Forgot one little bit more shadow on the hat. And that makes that arm look a little more real and a little more weighted. And let's keep sort of working our way down. I know we skipped some stuff, but you know, it's fine. I think this is literally this color. Oh, okay. Cool. Do like a little bit of shading. Oh, really light mouth shading, messing around all that much, honestly. And leave it like that for now. I guess this is where the fun... Hold on. There's a couple of fun challenges still. One of them is skin tone on the arm once again. We almost forgot this part down here. Okay, now we can get to the tunic, which I believe is this one? Yeah, so our shadow will be just a hair darker. Front kind of up view. Oops. Mark that a little more smoothly. I'm gonna like arc out more as this starts to curve out. Yeah, there we go. You can just a tiny bit up there. There we go. Let's see, this will all cast a shadow, of course. Fun actually drawing this character. I need to get her back into the D&D campaign at some point. It's been a hot minute. Of course, part of that's just because the campaign has gotten a tad busy in general. Like, everyone playing, not the campaign itself. Which is expected. That's usually how D&D goes. You play until... I guess really the players run out of time. Not so much the characters. I mean, they'll probably run out of time at some point too, but the real pressing story deadlines are the ones in real life. People have to go to college and get busy and all that jazz. All worthwhile things to do, but still, you're like, ah, man. If I want that to be an indent in, then yeah, the shadow actually kind of needs to go on this side of it. There we go. Kind of true of this one too, actually. The highlights ought to be going on these other sides. Okay, there we go. More of that. We're still going to probably have some shadows that need to be getting cast elsewhere. This is mostly behind, though, so it's not going to be casting a shadow so much. Interior underneath here, obviously all going to be in shadow. Probably ought to be even deeper shadows, but we'll start with this. I'm trying to limit my layers of shadow right now because we're not doing gradients per se, so it does mean that there's a few things down here that are just going to need to be in shadow pretty quickly to tell them apart. Oh, man. Okay. There we go. Now that's clearer where that lands in the grand scheme of things. We can get like a little bit more shadow happening on here. Like a little bit near some of the ragged bits. I'm gonna go crazy on some of the shadowy opportunities here. And we don't need to on all of them, but just a little something. Probably ought to chill on that. That one was good. This one's okay. That's the wrong tool entirely. I don't need that one I want, because that's actually like texture I'm trying to show here. Okay, these are going to be even one layer darker for a large chunk. Of course, it's going to blend in with these gemstones, which are going to need to get even a layer darker. Woo! Need to work on my workflow process a little bit. A lot of this stuff can definitely be like optimized to be much, much better. Okay. Still pretty believable in the grand scheme of things. That's good. That's what we want. Oh, I got a little too far. There we go. Just a little something there. Okay, here we go. Let's not commit to one stroke. That way the undo undoes less. And then the shoe itself will be even darker, at least on the bottom. Probably ought to be on the side too, honestly, but we'll get to that. I feel like, yeah, this whole part. There we go. Whole bottom of this shoe as well. Most of this is probably going to be like a little chunk at the top that's like catching some of the light. Nothing crazy. A little bit of shadow happening here, but not a ton. Go back up to this a little bit, kind of like some of this stuff out, just a hair. A little bit of shadow going in there. Nice. Okay. And I'm trying not to do, like, I could try to pick out like much sharper shadows around these curves that would define them more, but I'm trying to keep this to smoother, for like bigger, smoother shadows for the most part, or like single spikes where it's relevant to shade a spot. Although that one, I don't know if I've done it right, but that's okay. We'll come back to that. Just because I've realized that with our kind of simpler like line style, like we're not going for photorealistic with this design. We're trying to keep it fairly simple, focused on important details. And if we're going to do that with the lines and we're going to do that with all of our other shapes, we need to do it with the shadows too. Otherwise, it creates a little bit of dissonance where you're like, wow, that shadow is more detailed than the thing that's casting it. Like, uh-oh. So much for believability. Oh. Like, that's one that I can do a single, like, big shadow there and capture the feel of it pretty well. I don't have to do a whole bunch of little squiggly ones or anything crazy. And this just kind of helps capture the folds. There we go. Even this one, like, having this across from it feels too busy. Just stick with that. Not that there wouldn't be a shadow across from it, it just feels like we wouldn't necessarily like want that level of detail compared to how much detail is on everything else. Or how little detail in many cases. I'm inclined to take this one even like one layer, well no, hold on. Because one layer darker is going to put it back in the same category as all of this, which is going to start with some weird contrasty problems. But then over here we run into the same weird contrasty problems. Dagnabbit. Oh well. Put a limit on your color palette. At some point you're probably going to run into it. I still think it's worth having the limit in this case, just for my sanity. Let's see, this may not need like an actual like shadow accent. The shape itself may be enough to just show the fold, because like that one's not really. Now that's better. Yeah, just catching a little bit, nothing crazy. That's definitely going to be in shadow. Probably a chunk of the edge, too. Sort of curls under. There we go. That's probably a little too much, but it's fine. The other things to focus on. This patch probably doesn't need a ton of shadow on it. Really going to leave it alone. I don't know that shadow actually contributed anything to the other one, so yeah. The belt itself need to be in shadow at any point? I guess it probably should a little bit. I shouldn't try like a separate shading style there, it's going to be kind of jarring. Hey, how are you, May? Good to see ya. At the opposite end of the day. Oh, you were? Oh, awesome! What kind of things do you stream? I kind of only have 8-ish minutes left. But we're going to try to do a lot in those 8 minutes still. Oh, nice! Yeah. It's always fun to watch, like, well-played fighting games, but I am hot garbage at actually playing them. Still, it's a lot of fun to see, like, people who know what they're doing playing those. There we go. We won't go crazy on this. Let's deal with the other arm real quick, methinks. Yeah, it's so easy to forget to drink water, which, by the way, thanks for the reminder. Because it's been a little while since I've done that, too. Not trying to go for crazy detail on these. It's simple. Where our light source is, there's not going to be any harsh shadows on this anyway, so. Oh, nice! Love to see a good ref sheet. I always take like a stinking year to finish anything, just because I do it so incrementally. So I'm still working on the same ref sheet from yesterday. I'd love to see yours if you want to share it. Here we go. Oh, with a little more shadow. Yeah, I've been trying to practice my speed. Better than where I was, you know, like 6 months ago or a year ago, but still slow. Okay. Assuming the same light source direction. Let's start on this other one. Dang, yeah. Yeah, when I'm trying to do something detailed, I end up landing in like the 20+ hour range. Like, I mean, it was from a ref, but I can dig out that Melania we did a while back. Probably not in the recents. Let's see. Oh, yeah. Like, this took like 24 hours, but it was worth it because it was a lot of fun. But most of my stuff is faster than that by a lot. Yeah, I'm impressed that you can put together paintings as awesome as those in like 4 to 10 hours. That's an awful lot to get done in a pretty tight, I mean, you know, a tight amount of time considering everything you're doing. Or maybe I'm just slow and easily impressed, but I think it's impressive. I don't know that we want too much detail on the knuckles necessarily. I guess it could add, I think I'd rather have like focusing on the shadows in here, add depth to the hand shape. Fix this one on the base values. Or even the flats, I guess? Or is that on the shadow layer after all? Yeah, it is. Okay. Easy fix. Easier than I thought, even. Knowing that that's going to catch a lot of the light. It's actually a fair bit of the brim probably ought to be in some amount of shadow, if not all of it. Let's start with all of it and then work our way down. That'll be easier, because we can still get, like, edge lighting and stuff on this. But which character did you do the character sheet for? Oh, yeah, okay, let me actually open Discord and probably dox myself, but that Discord move, there we go. Let's see, switch, getting on over into the correct account. It take a hot minute to shift all that stuff over. Oh, nice! That's Sid. Oh, that one looks so cool. See, this is what I'd love to do. I like the color. You've got the good color palette there with everything you need. Ah, that's cool. You've got really good muted color palettes. That's something that's a skill I want to practice. Dang. I like the way you do noses. Like the simple 2 dots there. That's good. That's fun. Oh, that's so cool. Thank you for sharing that one. Yeah. Didn't really fit into the existing categories, huh? Oh, Sid wouldn't. Pets, okay. Okay, then we'll just it up in areas where it might actually be getting a little light. 3 hours. Dang, nice. I'm a little jealous. Oh, okay. Beyond a certain point, that's not even going to be getting around. Okay. There. So cool, though. I'm going to have to catch like a stream or a VOD if you did that on stream. Just to see. It's like, everyone's got a different process, and it's so fun to see how everyone solved it. Or solves their process issues, or challenges, not issues. Yeah. It's funny, you just kind of get attached to some characters. And you're like, yeah, that's the one that I want to do. Like, I'll be honest, if you'd asked me what my first, like, what my main OC would be, it probably wouldn't have been... it wouldn't have been Salt either. Like, thinking... Salt is a random Dungeons & Dragons NPC that the players latched onto, and then I also ended up latching onto because the interactions were fun. And then here we are, thinking doing Salt for ArtFight. So... yeah, jeepers. I'm going to have to do a Sifimir character sheet, and I'm going to have to rush it because I'm spending so much time on this one. Ah, nice. I've got a Sifimir, but we've only done one like quick character design stream, and so I've only got one drawing that's going to need some cleanup before it's ready for anything like ArtFight. Okay, now we want this one. Let's see, so assuming the light source is over there, most of that in the light, most of this side's going to be in shadow. Get that going. Yeah, I remember Hajime. Fun one. Mainly because my brain also went to Danganronpa for that, and I was like, wait, no. This character's clearly their own person. Yeah, I like that one. I like the cape a lot. It's a good color of orange. It's not like that it's not the blinding orange that's easy to accidentally do. But it's also not just like muted and brown. It's a nice... I don't know. I want to say orange dreamsicle orange, but I don't think that's right. It's that edge is definitely in shadow. This edge will probably be a certain amount of shadow, like this maybe. Depends on the angle, really. Like, if that's sitting there, then it's going to be a pretty straight edge. Okay. Oh, nice. Yeah. My awkward, embarrassing background story of art when I was 10 was back when, like, My Little Pony was sweeping the internet, so I have some OCs that I definitely probably don't want to use for my current art personas. Have not drawn them in a while. Yeah, you know, you always have to come up with, like, new ones every so often. Like, your interests change and who you are changes. And you're like, okay, let's... And sometimes it's just like, oh, this sort of de facto became the one, and it was never really the plan anyway. So you're like, okay, let's actually try to do this properly. That was a long time ago, though. So it's been fun Actually making new characters. Whoops, okay, hold on. Let's get that one in there. Just a little bit more shading happening there. Whoops. Now that would really go the other way, I think. Okay. We'll catch that one more once we're getting to highlights. Not sure what light source would cause that to cast a shadow that far out. Really be... I mean, unless it was from that one, but it'd really be more back here. Okay, yeah. There's so many pieces that I don't like to stop in the middle of shading. Honestly, that's a fair reason. It's not fun to witness your own OCs like, oh, that's me getting killed. Uh-oh. Makes it hard to write. Yeah. Keep that shadow simple for now. Abstract shadows on that. They're not going to be exactly right, but they'll be good enough to be like, yes, shadow. The shoe's still a little off, but it's sufficiently okay amount that I'm going to leave it alone for now. Okay. Oh, I feel like I've either gotten out of sync or I already have these like in shadow. Which I may have picked the wrong color on the get-go, but that actually works out because those should be almost entirely in shadow, so that kind of works. We can just do highlights instead. Let's just sync and clip every layer, shall we? There we go. Yeah, writing characters has always been like such a tough thing for me. It's part of why I enjoy Dungeons and Dragons is you kind of almost end up with like a collaborative process of reacting off of each other in order to build the personalities rather than having to try to work through every possible scenario. Keeps things a little more lively. And it helps get inspiration from people who aren't you, so you can get a sort of, I don't know, broader ideas, and your characters can end up a little less samey, which was an issue that I'd run into for a while. That should... Nice. Yeah, I don't know. I feel like every character is based, at least to some extent, off of whoever's creating them. Like, your worldview is just always going to sort of inform it a little bit. Right, yes, you were mentioning that about them. Yeah, still sorry to hear about that, but at least hopefully the character can still bring joy. Come on, there we go. Okay, wait, no, hold on. Oh, no, I totally had those right. What was I talking about? Yeah, no, I don't want to dig into your personal life and a public stream. That's rough for everyone. Yeah. Let's just... Yeah, like, venting is perfectly fine, but I feel like, once again, it's one of those things where when it's just a group on the internet, it never works quite as well. Like, at best, you end up with just, like, some kind of, like, trite responses. They're not always helpful, so... Gonna have to fix this whole section. I shaded it in the wrong shade. Whoops. See what we got here. I'm a little over time on the stream already, but I kind of want to, like, we're close enough that I'm like, maybe I can just get it done. Which is always a recipe for mistakes that delay things, but, still tempting. Let's see. Oop, like that one. Let's get that going. Let's... Oh, hold on. If I just... pretty close to these edges. And we remove the highlights layer. Let's see how that goes. A little less pop. We'll probably want to actually clean it up properly, but at the very least we can clean this up. Yeah, I know. I get that way, well, especially while streaming. I can just sort of be mumbling to myself, and I'm like, wait a second, I haven't said anything actually, like, of any meaning at all in, like, 20 minutes. Just, like, muttering thoughts to myself. I'm like, well, maybe if I test this, or if I do that. But, like, I've got nothing to contribute, which is perfectly fine. Like, it's not like you have to say anything. It's always fun to chat, but it's not. You don't want chatting to become homework. Like, it should be something you do because it's fun and you got something to say. At least that's my take on it. But I don't know. I've been a lurker for a long time on just not jumping into conversations right out the gate. So might not be the best one to talk to. As much as I am, literally publicly streaming and talking to myself for like 2 hours, I'm still a bit of a wallflower in some ways, as I think most people actually are. Let's see. Let's see if we can't get a little bit of at least hat shadow, and then just generally lack of light shadow happening here. No, let's get a little better curve than that. That'll be more exciting. Not sure why I'm hugging that edge so much. I'm probably going to just have to put the whole back of these two in shadow. Yeah. We'll clean up the dark part on these, so I'm not too worried about this getting a little over. Yeah. These are so far behind the character, there's no way they're getting the direct light that they would need to have a lot going on there. Okay, now let's spruce up the darker bit a little. Doop-a-dee-dup-doop-a-doo. Then I just need to figure out whatever the heck's going wrong with the hue layers. I don't know if you use Clip Studio Paint or what you use to draw. I've been using CSP for a while and Krita before that, and I think I may have. It may well be user error, but I think I may have found an issue with one of the hue options. But it's probably user error. I mean, that's typically how that goes with this sort of thing. I've been trying to set a layer to where it only adjusts the hue, but not like the lightness, darkness, saturation stuff. And for whatever reason, it won't apply to any of the layers except for the background paper. And I'm like, well, so much for that. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. Not a lot of texture depth from that. I could maybe fake a little bit of light just to have these pop. Like, I'm not sure the light would actually get here, but you could get a little bit. With that being a little bit scratchier. I don't want to get too scratchy on my shadows, though. It gets, you end up with details where you don't want them when you get too scratchy on the shadows. Okay. Just a little bit more to do with this one. So actually, this second one has been going much faster. Nope, not that. There we go. That's better. Okay. Now this hand, actually both hands are going to be interesting. Because so much of them are catching the light really directly in this view. That the back is going to have to be pretty heavily shadowed, in fact. There we go. The knuckles might pop out as highlights, but most of this is going to be pretty harsh. Let's see. Got that going a lot more. Even merge in. And then let's clean it up just a little bit. Whoops, not by moving the lines, ideally. But by instead syncing up sort of the angles of these a little bit. And also, I think actually getting a little more shadow on this even. That's the wrong tool. There's going to be so little actually getting around the edge. Like, I hesitate to even have this light wrap around. There'd just be a tiny bit, maybe? Maybe a hair over here. And this hand, oh man, gonna have similar problems. Not problems, it's just tough. Dating these is tough. And then I think that's gonna be the last thing for the night, most likely. Gotten a lot of shading done on these. I'm gonna try to debug that hue issue. We'll see how far that gets us. But then that's probably gonna, once we get the hue working, that's probably gonna be it for Salt's character sheet. well, we'll have to get the color palette on there, and the watermark and all that jazz. But yeah, that'll be ready to upload for ArtFight. We'll have the much more up-to-date character designs. Dang, that's a heck of a power wash simulator level if it took you about over 2 hours. Much as that's a relaxing game, I feel like I would stress out just from being watching the clock and being like, "Oh no, I'm out of time." I think it'd still be calming though, honestly. Honestly, do a lot of light on one side and just a tiny bit on the other. Here's where you can see the side of the finger are going to have a little more light. Oh, dang. Yeah, I can imagine that would have an awful lot of grime to get sorted out, wouldn't it? Although, also, if you think about it, they probably have the ultimate power washer there, if you're allowed to use the fire truck's fire hose. Okay. Let's see, the highlights, there's going to be barely any, because I don't tend to do too much with highlights. The fire truck's a different level entirely. You can always just do this one or that, but classes have sort of tempered what I'm going to be able to do with this. I'm going to have to go even lighter for the part that's in here, and that's maybe just too light even. Yeah, it just looks like football paint. Okay, we'll leave that one alone. I'll do a little bit of highlight where the sun's going to be at its brightest, so we're talking nose tip and kind of this cheek. Might end up looking weird with the glasses, we'll see. Yeah. Rats. In the fire truck level, do you at least get to use the power wash hose? I sworn that I'd already done this, but that needs to be lighter too. Oh, that would be the ultimate bonus level. It's congrats, we're giving you free reign. Go absolutely destroy everything with your fire truck. Alright. Shadows layer. I really ought to just do highlights and shadows on the same layer every single time. Like this one. Okay. I'll leave it like that for now so we don't get any weird tangents with it at least. And okay, I think next time we're going to be adding color. That'll be fun. Until then, thank y'all for dropping by. Hope y'all have a good, evening for everyone who's currently watching. But if anyone's being quiet and not chatting, I hope you have a good whatever time of day it may be. And yeah, we will pick this back up tomorrow. And then we're going to get going with, well, probably more ArtFight character sheets. But I'll have to figure out which one next. So we'll see. Until then, I hope y'all have a good one. Thanks for dropping by.